Hey, my name is Scott Rauer, and I am a clinical psychologist. I'm also someone that has Crohn's disease. I'm just about 40 years old now, and I developed Crohn's disease when I was, I don't forget, sometime in my early 20s. And something that's pretty interesting to me is that I've had Crohn's disease for, 15, 16 years now, and it was only in the last couple of years that I um, learned that there was this thing called psychogastroenterology, which is um, the research and evidence-based tools for people with GI disorders to learn mind-body skills that are actually research supported. And I'm a psychologist that does a lot of training and is pretty current in my field. And I've had Crohn's disease for a long time, and I had no idea that this whole field even existed until the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm very interested in trying to just kind of spread the word, get the information out into the world that there are very useful skills out there for people. For the last couple of years, I've been offering meditation courses for people with GI disorders because that is one of the main things I've been finding has been helpful for me in dealing with the stress, dealing with the fatigue, and just trying to minimize my GI symptoms. More recently, I've been studying and offering a bit of a class on what's called heart rate variability. Heart rate variability biofeedback. It's a type of kind of a way of breathing that regulates the nervous system and sends these safety signals to the body. Because part of what happens in these digestive disorders is not that stress causes them, but stress absolutely makes them worse. So learning how to send a safety signal in the body, it's interesting. There's the gas pedal, the stress response in the body, and it's called the sympathetic nervous system, activates this gas pedal in the body. It's this, everything isn't okay, let me fight or run away or kind of just deal with a stressful situation. And so there's this adrenaline, cortisol activation in the body to deal with stress in a short-term basis. So that's the famous fight or flight response. The other side of that equation is called the rest and digest response. That's the parasympathetic, other half of the nervous system. So rest and digest, those two things go together. Almost everyone needs more rest, right? We're generally on the go, doing more. And even when we're resting, usually we're on the phone. You're doing something that isn't necessarily actually resting. It's distracting, not actually resting. So almost everyone needs more rest, but particularly you need more rest if you have chronic GI issues. So knowing that is great, but actually how do you do that? Becoming more practiced and developing the skill at signaling to the body to rest, that's a whole other thing. So I'm studying right now heart rate variability and collecting some data and seeing how effective that tool is. It seems pretty promising, but I'll have a post about that sooner than later once this class ends and I can analyze the data. But overall, I just wanted to put out the message, there are tools out here. There's a field of researchers and practitioners that are dedicated to developing these tools. So it's important to understand that your GI issues are not in your head, and that could be particularly important for people with it used to be called functional GI disorders like IBS or dyspepsia or these types of non-organic disorders. So what I have is called Crohn's disease. You can see Crohn's disease on a colonoscopy. You can see the inflammation and the effects of the disease physically. Something like IBS, you can't see on a scope or a scan or a blood test, but it's a real thing. It's not in your head. used to be called a functional disorder. Now they're called disorders of the gut-brain interaction. That's a pretty cool thing because that's really validating that it's a real issue. It's a actual disorder that's not a psychological disorder, but it's a disorder that's happening because of the dysregulation between the gut and the brain. And the gut and the brain are highly connected. So, something that's empowering to know is your stress level is not causing this disorder, but it's perpetuating it, it's amplifying, it's making it worse. So, I'm almost 40. I'm going to be 40 in November. So I grew up in the 80s in New Jersey. And anyone in my era didn't really get any education about emotions in school. I am beyond excited as a psychologist and father of a 3-year-old that it's now becoming more part of the norm that little kiddos get what's called social emotional learning. They get to understand what they're feeling and how to work with feelings, how to express feelings. And that is fantastic. That's so useful and important as a human being, but it's also super important as someone with a GI disorder or GI issue or chronic GI problem, whatever it might be. If you have problems with your digestion, it's super important that you start to, that at least you are aware that it is useful to become aware of what you're feeling, because emotions are just information. They're just another channel of information, and it turns out when you pay attention to this channel of information and know what you're feeling and be able to work with what you're feeling, you tend to kind of do better in life. And it turns out it also helps your GI health as well. So I am here to try and spread the good word about psychogastroenterology, or just GI psychology. And I'm planning on sharing more and more, but my own process along the way might be a helpful tool. So I'm here to be a resource for you. If there's any questions, I might be able to help as well.